It is currently 10:30 in the morning, the day of Game 4, so let's preview the game just a little bit. Really quickly though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a great way to play player props, and if you think you know what's going to happen in some of these finals games, you could win some cash. What you do is you download the app, you pick between 2 and 5 players in PrizePicks sets over under lines for each of their performances, and there's a lot of different ways you can play. You can see some entries that I tried for Game 2 where a lot of these are just for the first quarter or for the first 6 minutes. You can pick 3-pointers made within the first 6 minutes. You can do within a full game as well. So if you think that Tatum's going to have a good game or you think that Clay isn't, you can pick over under for their point totals, combined points, assists, rebounds, 3-pointers made. They've added turnovers as well. They're always adding new stuff. And so you pick those 2 to 5 players, and if you're correct, then you win some cash. And another thing they do that I really like is, especially for bigger games, for example, for Game 3, Jason Tatum's point total was 0.5. They basically gave you a free space. You pick the over for Jason Tatum. If he scores a single point, that is basically a free space within your 2 to 5 selections. And speaking of scoring a single point, PrizePicks has an offer for you. If you click the link in the description or you use code SPORTING and Steph Curry scores a single point in any of Golden State's remaining finals games, if you're a first-time depositor placing a $5 play, you instantly get a $50 promo credit if Steph Curry scores a single point. Again, the app is PrizePicks. You can click the link in the description or use code SPORTING, and thank you again to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Big picture, I think this is going to be a similar game to what we saw in Game 2. Golden State knows that they need this one. I think they're going to be the more desperate team. I think they're going to make some adjustments defensively to try and put a little bit more pressure on Boston, and I think Golden State's going to win tonight. Score prediction, I'm going to go like 105-97. I think it's going to be lower scoring because they didn't have as much rest between Games 3 and Game 4 as they've had any other games in this series, and some adjustments I'm looking for Golden State to make. Again, I think they're going to be more aggressive with their defensive pressure. They're going to be the more desperate team. The way that they can win these games is if they shoot the ball better than Boston and if they force turnovers. Their half-court offense is not very good. Boston's been pretty locked in with the exception of some mistakes, especially in Game 3 and how they guarded Steph. They've been really good at taking away a lot of the fun stuff that Golden State likes to do. A lot of their off-ball stuff where they're slipping screens and really punishing teams, especially teams that like to switch a lot, and maybe that's why Boston hasn't been switching as much. They've taken away a lot of that. The half-court offense is a real issue for Golden State right now, so forcing turnovers and shooting the ball well are their main ways to be able to win this game. My issue for Golden State tonight is the health of Steph. We've seen this before with him where, he has a minor injury in the playoffs and then he doesn't play particularly well, and it's obviously no fault of his. Hopefully he's healthy, because if he's not, Golden State doesn't have a chance, and the finals is over. Like, the basketball season is over if Steph Curry isn't healthy and if he doesn't have a good game tonight. I'm thinking that he's going to be good, maybe not as good as he's been in the first 3 games, but Clay's going to step up. Maybe this is a Jordan Poole game. And then the only other thing for them that I'm kind of paying attention to is how much they use Draymond, because defensively they still need him. Like, he's still very, very good defensively. They had him in an on-ball role against Jaylen Brown. I'd expect them to switch that tonight and make him a little bit more of an off-ball guy because they need him to rebound. But offensively, like, if he's out there with Looney or he's out there with Gary Payton, it just doesn't work, like I said, unless you're forcing turnovers. So you can either have him out there as the one big and, with Otto Porter and hope that you shoot the ball well. You can have him out there with Looney and just say, we're not going to be very good offensively, but we're going to crash the offensive glass. Or you're going to say, well, if he's out there with someone like Looney or Gary Payton, we're just turning up the defense. We're trying to force turnovers, and that's where offense is going to come from. For Boston, I really don't have a lot of concerns for them. I think they're the better team, especially with Steph dealing with some kind of injury issue here. I think they're going to continue to shore up some of their defensive stuff, staying up a little bit more on Steph. We're going to continue to see them go with one big for most of the game, whether that be Horford, maybe some Tice minutes. Robert Williams, they've really been using sparingly. A couple minutes in the beginning of the game, and they really used him well in the fourth quarter the other night. As long as they don't turn the basketball over, they should be in a pretty good spot to win this game. But again, I just think that if you're Boston, you're probably feeling a little bit more comfortable given how Game 3 went. You're at home. I think Golden State's going to be the more desperate team, and ultimately, I'm going to go with them winning tonight. Like I said, 105-97 feels right. So I don't really think I need to show you the time. I think it's pretty clear that not only did I get a haircut, but this is after the game. This is later in the day. So even though this game went kind of the way that I expected it to from a score standpoint, I expected Golden State to win. About 3 quarters through this game, when they started the fourth quarter and Steph wasn't playing, I honestly thought the season was over. Like, I thought Boston was going to come back and win. It remains clear to me that Boston is the better team, and I thought Boston was going to win this game. And then, at that point at 3-1, the series is basically over. The season is over. The Boston Celtics are NBA champions. And it's a realistic thing to think that Boston might have just thrown away their chance at winning the title, and Steph was just unbelievable tonight. So coming into the game, we were trying to pay attention to like how much Draymond was going to be involved, how much the Warriors could get from other guys. Could they get some extra stuff from Wiggins and Clay and Jordan Poole and just make enough shots to be able to win this game? And we're making sure that Boston was trying to keep the turnovers down, and that was really the couple of things we're paying attention to here. Boston still is having turnover issues, and every single time they turn the ball over, the Warriors offense looks so much better. Of course it does in transition. In the half court, it has not been very good for the entirety of the series. I've said it in every single video, and if Boston keeps turning the basketball over, they're going to continue to have issues. And again, it's still a problem that they cannot find a remedy to for whatever reason. Tatum was okay. Brown had some really good moments as well, but overall, this was another typical Celtics game where it really just comes down to shot making and turnovers. They know they can guard, they know they can rebound, they're bigger, they're stronger, but can they make enough shots? And can they keep control of the ball? And on the other hand, for Golden State, like I think there's an interesting narrative here with Steph, throughout his career about how pretty much every time he's been to the finals, he's had the better team, and what it would look like for him to be on a team that isn't as good and have as much responsibility as he's had in this series. And I don't think that there's any question after this game, after so far in this series, that he is absolutely capable of carrying a team, because like Draymond, it was so bad tonight and has been so bad throughout the series that they were going offense, defense with him at the end of this game. He didn't even play from like the 7-minute mark to the 4-minute mark of the third quarter. Clay wasn't very good tonight. He hit some big shots, but overall wasn't fantastic. Jordan Poole hit some shots, wasn't great. Wiggins was pretty good, but not incredibly consistent. And a 40-piece from Steph is what it took for them to win this game on the road. Like I said, the outcome I expected. The way they went about it was interesting, and partway through the game, I really did think that the season was over. And we're at the point now, once you get 4 games through a final series, adjustments are pretty limited. Like Golden State made the adjustment tonight of putting Otto Porter in the starting lineup. I don't really think that made much of a difference other than having Looney out there when Boston went with one big rather than trying to play Draymond as the small ball 5 against the one big lineup. They did it against the 2 big lineup, and Robert Williams had a huge impact for Boston in the minutes that Draymond was on the floor. It's not really about adjustments anymore. Like you can try and play Kuminga if you're Golden State, at home in Game 5 if you feel like you need a little bit more size. They had a little bit more Gary Payton out there, a little bit more Bielitsa out there tonight. It's not really an adjustments thing anymore. Each team knows what's going to happen going into each game. And again, the shot making difference for Golden State has to be there, and they have to force Boston turnovers. And if they do that, as we saw tonight, assuming Steph continues to be incredible, they have a great chance in this in any of these games and a great chance to win the finals. They have to win 2 out of the next 3 games. 2 of them are at home. They're in a pretty good spot. I still think Boston's going to win in 6. I think they win 5 and 6. This was like an empty the clip game for you if you're the Warriors, where Steph had a great game and the shot making difference was there. It's really difficult to replicate that and rely on that game after game. And I think overall, Boston is still the better team here. But really from a narrative standpoint, I think the thing to take away from this is that Boston had the championship basically in hand at certain points in this game where they really could have put them away. Again, they struggled in the third quarter. And I don't know what it is about this team specifically. They did this in the Miami series as well. If they have like a 5 or a 6 point lead, or if they're in a relatively comfortable spot in a close game with like 7-8 minutes left, they change how they play. They slow it down. They're not as active. They're not as aggressive. And towards the end of this game, especially, like they're just throwing shots at the rim, whether it be these weird little leaner in between shots or they're just jacking up threes. And they didn't look like the Celtics team that, looked really good for the most part throughout this game. And like when you have a chance to go up 3-1 in the finals, you got to take advantage of that. And the Warriors stole one tonight. Like I know Steph was unbelievable, but overall, I'm still not coming away from these games like overwhelmingly impressed by Golden State, with the exception of Steph. Now, as we look forward to Game 5, the Draymond thing is a really interesting question, because he's so bad offensively that if Robert Williams is out there, Draymond almost can't be on the floor, because the Warriors are basically playing 4-on-5 and the 5th guy is potentially the best shot blocker in the entire league. Like, yes, he got a put back one time and he was a little bit more active, especially as they started to kind of blitz Steph late in the game. But if they're not blitzing Steph in the pick and roll and Draymond is just going to be out there behind the 3-point line, Robert Williams is going to destroy everything you try and do offensively. And so, like, I honestly think part of the solution for Golden State if you're looking at some kind of minor adjustment, is less Draymond, like more Otto Porter, more Kevon Looney at the 5. They have to play Draymond a good amount because they don't have a true backup 5, but him and Looney out there together at the same time is just not going to work from a spacing standpoint. Boston is too good defensively. They're too big, and it's not like they have an advantage on the offensive glass with those guys out there anyway. So less Draymond. You're hoping your role players shoot the ball well at home. You're hoping Steph continues to play well. Didn't look hampered by the injury whatsoever, and that's the formula for Golden State. For Boston, just don't turn the basketball over and get decent shots. Like, you are bigger than them, you are stronger than them. Your margin for error is bigger because you can get more offensive rebounds and you can defend better. You have more options. Just don't turn the ball over and get decent shots, and you'll be NBA champions. Now, the problem is you put yourself in a situation now where you have to win a game in Golden State, which you've already done in this series. But if you were to win tonight, you just had to win a home game and you would be NBA champions. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's kind of what I expected to happen from an outcome standpoint, but now we're in a really interesting point in the series where there's momentum for Golden State going home. If they win game 5, they're up 3-2. At that point, I would obviously start to get really, really nervous if I was a Celtics fan. This has been an awesome series, by the way. Like, in a playoffs where we had a good amount of blowouts and a good amount of games that were hyped up in the beginning, but not all that interesting ultimately. I think every game in this series has been really, really interesting, with the exception of one blowout in game 2, I believe. And it's not like these have been 1 or 2 point games, but there's been interesting adjustments schematically. These teams match up in a really interesting way, and we are getting some unbelievable Steph performances. Obviously, most importantly in game 4 tonight. Still waiting on an explosive Tatum game and a more explosive Jaylen Brown game. I think Jaylen Brown's probably the leader for Finals MVP right now if Boston was to win the series, but ultimately I'm excited to see how this series continues to unfold going into game 5.